Here. Excellent. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Keep on coming. Welcome. Glad that you're here. Hello, Red. Glad that you're here. Mav, I saw you. Excellent. Glad you guys are here. Thank you. Please, by all means, keep the hearts going already. Love it. For those of you joining for the first time, I'm glad that you guys are here. We're going to talk about something that I think will be a little exciting. And on this particular one, I've got something special for those of you who want to actually become masters at what the title was talking about towards the end. If you're just now joining us, welcome. If this is your first time here on one of the scopes with me, my name is Jay with CashFlowDiary. If this is one of your first times here, just give me a big old shout out in the chat. So just type a cash flow in the chat so that way I know that you are here for the first time. That I think would be awesome, excellent. And as you continue to come in, let us know. Hey, cash flow, I like it, excellent. Lots of cash flow for those of you who are here for the first time. If you'd like a lot of cash flow, do me a favor. Give me lots of hearts relative to the amount of cash flow that you want to actually receive. So if you want a lot of cash flow, then there should be a lot of hearts flying right now. Hey, Ryan, glad that you're here. Hello, glad that you guys are here. Excellent. Feel free to go ahead and share. Thank you there for sharing the links out to Facebook and Twitter. Yes, that's right. If you want lots of cash flow, there should be lots of hearts because that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Because what it comes down to, so okay, again, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jay Massey with CashFlowDiary.com. I've been doing the real estate investing thing for a number of years now. Started back with my wife back when the economy kind of fell apart. We were squatting in bank-owned property, all kinds of interesting things. Credit score was 398 when we first got started. And we didn't have any history when it comes to real estate investing or investment. And today we get the privilege of helping thousands of students across the globe. We have people out in Australia, New Zealand, UK, obviously in the US and Canada with our tools and techniques. And the number one thing that I get asked a lot, I mean, like a ton of times, especially once people understand that, how did you go from squatting in bank-owned property to owning apartment buildings and cell phone towers, etc.? I don't understand how you can buy a property with no money and bad credit. And that's the thing, you know. That's one of those things that people wish they knew how to do. So if you are one of those people that want to know how to do, just type in the comment box that, yes, please show me how. And over here on Periscope, give me some hearts in relative to how much you really want to know this as well. Hi, Tyler. I see you. Excellent. Glad that you guys, glad that you're here. Give me some likes and shares over there. So, what I wanted to do is that, yes, please show me how. Exactly. That's what we're talking about, Ryan, Suzetta. Excellent. Love it. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that you guys understood that everybody knows that there are ways to get deals with no dollars. And it's all about the tools that you know how to use. It's all about the tools that show you. Yes, we intend to show you. Excellent. Hello, Eli. So that's exactly what we're talking about. And it's often down to understanding the nuances. So let me first give you this example of what I mean. If you have an issue with, say, your bathroom in your house, and the toilet isn't functioning properly, well, what do? Do you run to the store and grab a plunger, or do you call a plumber? And if you do call a plumber, the question really is, does he or she, when they come over to your house, bring one tool, or do they bring a truck full of tools? A truck full of tools that have many different devices for many different uses in many different ways. That's typically what happens, right? However, when we go out to the world as real estate investors, we have one tool. That's what we think. I'm going to go, either it's all cash or I've got to go to the bank and get financing. And that's the extent for most people out there in the world today. That is just not the case. That you need way more tools in your tool belt if you're going to build a business as a real estate investor. You cannot do it with just the idea of I'm going to pay, fast. I'm going to close fast for all cash. That one's always fun to say and whatnot, and that's wonderful. But that's not always the reality of the situation. Sometimes you have way more deals on the table than you have cash to be able to close, and you need other tools. So with that being said, I want to first give a distinction for everybody. There is a distinction between the term creative acquisition and there's a distinction between the term creative financing. Please understand, there's a difference. Creative acquisition is one thing, creative financing is a completely different something else. And when you understand those two things, you can see how the number of tools begin to expand. So for example, there are in general, there's about six different creative acquisitions techniques. And each of these creative acquisition tools are designed to give you, the buyer, control over the property at various stages and in various ways. So to give you those six really, really quickly is, and again, I'm going to review it at the end, so don't stress. It's options, lease options. You've got what is, depending on the area of the country you're in, it's an agreement for deed or a land contract. You also have what is called, what the popular term for this is usually called a Sari carryback mortgage, but this is what most people are referring to as seller financing. But I believe the official term is purchase money mortgage. Then you have subject to, which is again more advanced. Then you have wraps or all-inclusive trust deeds. Again, depending on the state and area of country you're in, they functionally function the same way. Here's the point. Depending on how you negotiate and use those tools, each of those are used in different situations for different reasons to accomplish different goals, depending on the comfortability of you and the seller and what you guys are negotiating and ultimately the outcome. You don't just go into, could you imagine, like if you walked into the emergency room or if you walked to the doctor's office or you went there and said, hey doc, I'm sick, and they just started prescribing and they just said, okay, let me, nurse, let's prep him for surgery. Well, that would be malpractice, and this is the same thing. We have all of these tools, and the 6 tools I just mentioned, if used correctly, you won't need a bank loan. So that has nothing to do with your financing, and hopefully you can begin to see the nuances that I'm bringing to light here, is that how you put your name on title and the order in which that happens is not about the financing at this particular moment. It's all about the acquisitions piece. How are you going to gain control of the property? And again, those were options, lease options, agreement for deed or land contract, depending on what area of the country you live in. Seller carryback or seller financing, that's typically what most people are calling it. It's great, it's useful, it's just also limited and you need other tools. But it's typically on your HUD statements or closing statements, you'll see purchase money mortgage. That's usually where that is. Subject to, which is subject to the existing mortgage, as well as wraps or all-inclusive trust deeds. All of these tools have a very, very specific purpose and a very specific time when you should use them in order to do things like keep your down payments low, have no cash in the deal, make sure that any cash you do have gets reserved and saved for repairs, as opposed to going down to the down payment on a mortgage. Or maybe you don't, like I said, don't have the down payment, or you're trying to figure out how to make a property that traditionally wouldn't cash flow, now it needs to. Or if you're, especially when you're doing development or long-term deals, you don't actually need to own the property until you start making major investments in it. And there are times when this is the most important thing to understand. You've got to understand these nuances with these tools. And if you don't, here's what happens for most people. They end up paying fast for all cash, right? Or they say, I just can't buy it because I don't have the money. And that's the problem. There are so many properties that, again, so long as you have the legal right to own property, the techniques that I'm sharing with you, again, that's why we have students all across the globe, is because the techniques that we share work in multiple jurisdictions across multiple different time zones, obviously, in multiple different countries. Obviously, you've got to speak the language and have people to deal with and have the legal right to own property wherever you are, and you can go make these things work. And that's what it comes down to, is understanding the nuances of it's just like any other tool. Like, when do I use a screwdriver versus an Allen wrench versus a hammer? They have a tool, ultimately I want to build something, right? And I need all of those tools to build and ultimately construct something. And that's the same thing here. You're ultimately trying to construct passive income, building cash flow, right? So in order to do that, you have to have access to and understand all of the tools that are available. So here's what I'd like to know. For those of you, if I want to know by the number of likes or by a round of hearts, if you already knew all six, and I'm gonna repeat. If you know any of these, give me some hearts or some likes. If you knew what an option was, lease option, agreement for deed, land contract, seller carryback or purchase money mortgage, subject to wrap or all-inclusive trust deed. If you had heard of any of those before, give me tons of hearts, give me lots of likes. I'm sure you've heard of some of them. Yeah, I can see the hearts going. Excellent. Thank you very much. That's just creative acquisitions, okay? And that is a major part of how you can buy any property. Here's the interesting thing. With the tools that I just mentioned, do you realize you could go buy a sports stadium? It has nothing to do with how much money you have. It has everything to do with how you've negotiated this first part. This first part is so key. You could go buy a sports stadium, a shopping mall. You could go buy any piece of real property that I just mentioned with the tools that I'm talking about right there, whether that's an option, lease option, agreement for deed, land contract, purchase money mortgage, subject to wrap or all-inclusive trust deed. Here's the thing. When you're armed with those tools, guess what? You can solve more problems. Most real estate investors, especially when they're first beginning, the only problem that they are solving is the easy ones to solve. You don't need those tools if you're just going to solve the easy ones. So Wes is asking a question. He's like, how would I cover inspection and appraisal fees? Again, okay, so now you're talking about some of the transactional costs, Wes, and that's great. So creative acquisitions is one thing. The next thing becomes the whole creative financing, right? Where does some money come from? Because I've got to close this thing. I've got to make this happen in some way, shape, or form. So Wes, what it comes down to, very, very simply, for everybody, is when it comes to creative financing, there are two things you need to understand. There's the source of capital, and then there's the terms of capital. So there are multiple sources of capital. For example, you could go from angel investors as a source of capital, right? That makes sense to you. Like just as well as banks. Banks are a source of capital. Private lenders are a source of capital. Institutional lenders are a source of capital. There are many sources of capital, and today the popular one obviously is all about crowdfunding, right? That's a source of capital. So there are many sources of capital, but then there's also terms. For example, what you were mentioning, Wes, is like inspection and appraisal fees. Well, when do you actually have to pay those inspection or appraisal fees? Just because the inspection occurred today, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to pay for it today. Part of what you can and occasionally negotiate is, hey, I will pay for the inspection on the HUD at closing. There are inspectors, when you learn to build your database and have your relationships in place, you can pay for things like appraisals and inspections at the closing. Well, at the closing, you have other people's money at that time. And during this time, so say, for example, you've got the inspection today and the closing's not for, and I'm making this up, but say the inspection's today, but the closing's 15, 20 days away still. Well, during that 15 to 20 day period, you know what that really is? The inspector is giving you financing for 15 to 20 days. Usually at no interest, no cost. That's usually what it is. But at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's a creative way of financing the inspection costs because it's part of what you need, right? I'm not saying that there is no money in these deals. I'm trying to give you the tools of how you can be creative to make them all work together. And that's what it comes down to, is understanding that. It's not essentially borrowing that as well as and providing a return. It has nothing to do So it has nothing to do with borrowing. I'm not striking a promissory note, although a promissory note is another way of it's another way of getting capital. That is not what we're talking about. Again, it's simply not, and it's not necessarily debt. It's technically a current liability on your on your financial statements. But either way, here's my point. The point is you are just getting it's an unspoken terms. I'm going to pay for it at closing. That happens a ton of times. Just because service is delivered, you don't pay for it immediately. Same thing happens, honestly, every time you've gone to at least in Western medicine, when you go to the doctor. Unless you are a cash patient, what you do, they bill the insurance, and the insurance pays later. This is the same thing when it comes to that. So just because, and here's the thing, typically when you're used to doing retail transactions, like when you go to the store, and you want to buy some groceries, the time delay between picking up the groceries and paying for them is very, very short. And what ends up happening is when we want to become a real estate entrepreneur, we believe, we act as though that same duration or short duration must be there, i.e., you don't typically go to the grocery store unless you know you have money in your pocket at that exact moment. But even then, when you haven't, there have been times where you've creatively financed your groceries and Visa, MasterCard, or American Express helped you out a little bit, right? My point is that there are many, many ways of structuring the terms to do that. What we've been talking about, Wes, specifically is known as payment patterns. Payment patterns. So you can mess with payment patterns, you can mess with due dates, obviously there are interest rates, you can mess with all kinds of different things in order to get creative financing, in order to get creative financing. So there are many different ways in order to, like I said, we've got creative acquisitions. When it comes to creative financing, you've got the source of capital as well as the terms on that particular type of capital to consider. Hi, Billy. Hi, Gilvin. I see you. You guys, excellent. Give me lots of likes and shares over there on Facebook, and definitely keep the hearts flowing over here on Periscope. I appreciate it a ton. My point is between that's 6 different ways to acquire properties, again, using none of your own money or credit. There's approximately 7 different sources of capital, 7. And then you can have probably around 4 different ways to work around terms. I'm going to be covering all of that, the 6 different ways to buy, 7 sources of capital, 4 different terms that you can begin to negotiate to be able to get your property down to the point to where you don't have to have money at closing, because that's really what it comes down to, is how can I control more of these properties and have no money at closing. What I've been talking to a lot of the people in our membership, in our database already. I'm just now letting you guys know. I guess that's why our membership has its privileges, because they've known for a little bit longer that tomorrow I'm going to be investing 4 hours with everybody, teaching them everything that I'm just talking about here. If you'd like to join us, you may do so at bit.ly.cfd creative. CFD creative is obviously all one word. bit.ly/CFD creative. bit.ly/CFD creative. So I'm going to be investing 4 hours with individuals, helping them all learn how to use the 6 different ways and understand the different sources of capital, and most importantly, understanding the terms of the terms on that capital, simply because that is one of the most powerful things, that if you get that down, you'll be able to buy commercial assets, cell phone towers, apartment buildings, all kinds of things in various different places with little to no money out of pocket. And that's the whole thing. And we haven't even covered things like syndications and raising capital, like when you're actually going to put some money in. So when you begin to combine all of those things, it's a ways to make your dollars stretch much, much further. And that's what ends up happening. We make your dollars stretch much, much further. You get to control more property faster than you normally would, and you still have the ability to maintain control over the asset and the process the entire time. And that's really what it comes down to. If you want to do deals with no dollars, then you're going to want to be there tomorrow. Like I said, we're going to invest 4 hours. So if you can't stay the full 4 hours, it's no big deal. Recordings are available to those who register. So they're the only ones who'll get them. So whether you're paying to stay the entire time or just for a portion of the time, we're starting, the time, Lance, is we're starting at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We're starting at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So we're going to go from 8 to noon. And it's bit.ly/CFD creative. Yep, bit.ly/CFD creative. So we're going to go, like I said, and if you guys know me at all, I have definitely, if we get down some tangents, I will go longer if that's what it takes to make sure that everybody understands, because that's what I really care about. It's one thing to know that a screwdriver exists. It's another to know how to use it. The link isn't working. bit.ly/CFD creative. I tested that myself. Are you serious? CFD creative. Are you Oh, got it. I think I just learned something. bit.ly/CFD. Is that right? Is that what just happened? You are correct. Okay, so I just learned that the C, the F, and the D all have to be CFD creative. We just learned something today. Thank you, Sep, for sharing that. Bit.ly, the C, the F, the D, and the C have to be capitalized. Exactly. I just learned that today. I didn't know Bitly was that particular, but clearly it is. So the C, the F, the D, and the C all have to be capitalized. Thank you very much, Sep, for sharing that. You've actually been one of our more successful students. You're new to my scopes, Lance. I am actually in California, Southern California, Mission Viejo to be very, very specific. So I spend most of my time here. I'm actually in the home office today, and or at Starbucks. So you'll get to know me over time. We keep doing scopes, and we've been providing information for a number of years. And I'm just learning this online broadcasting thing because it's actually kind of fun to talk to you guys very directly this way. So that's fun for me. But tomorrow, like I said, for 4 hours, we're going to be going over how to do deals with no dollars, basically, using options, lease options, agreements for deeds, also known as land contracts. We're going to be talking about seller carrybacks or purchase money mortgage, subject to wraps, AITDs. And we're going to be talking about sources of capital as well as terms of the capital, so that you have to go to the closing table with no deals, no dollars. Lucky 2000 is asking me, do I buy deals in Southern California? In Southern California, I'm only interested in retail property. So commercial retail, maybe commercial industrial, and I have been looking for a movie theater. So I have been looking for that. Gabriel is asking, can you please repeat the formula for multi-unit? The multi-unit. Okay, so Gabriel, if you go to catch.me/CashFlowDiary, you can see the replay of that particular video where we were talking about apartment buildings and the math there that was involved. I don't actually have those cards nearby. Actually, hold on. What? Wait a minute. Well, no. There they are. Here they are. Here's the first one. I do have it. So it was income minus NOI minus expenses. So take a screenshot real fast. And here was the other one. So clearly, Gabriel's been here more than once, which is great. It's NOI divided by purchase price equals cap rate. So there you go for both of those. But tomorrow, again, we're going to be investing 4 hours learning about sources of capital, terms on the capital, the 6 different ways to buy property, get deals with no dollars, bit.ly, capital C, capital F, capital D, capital C, creative, CFD creative with a capital C, F, D, and a C. Will get you there completely. Totally. Hopefully I'll see a lot of you there. What was your catch again? It's catch.me/CashFlowDiary. Just like you can see right here on the shirt. Catch.me/CashFlowDiary. And you can watch that'll definitely be there for you as well. So if you've learned anything, first of all, I thank you for watching. If you've learned anything, give me some hearts. Definitely feel free to tap the guys and share if there was anything on this that you thought that, man, that was actually good information. Well, tomorrow's going to be even better. Feel free to share it with friends, share it on Facebook, give us lots of likes, follow us on Facebook so you can be notified when we're going to be doing it again, and follow us as well on Twitter and Facebook, or sorry, Twitter and Periscope as well. Will I be scoping deal reviews? That's a good idea, Wes. I have not done a deal review as a scope yet, so sure, I'm sure I can put something like that together. We haven't done one of those yet. What Wes is referring to is that for our members, I will break down a good deal versus a bad deal and show you why the numbers work, or rather don't work, and teach you through that so you can figure out how to get the best deal possible. Or if there is just no deal, well, then there's just no deal, so it's no big deal there, right? Anyway, one last time, it's bit.ly /CFD creative with the capital C, F, and the D. bit.ly /CFD creative. Hopefully I will see you guys there tomorrow, 8 a.m. Pacific time. And in the meantime, it's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.